Samsung released 3 really exciting flagships this year: the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, Galaxy S25 Ultra and the Galaxy Z Flip 7. 3 expensive phones that actually differ from each other in many ways. I've compared them in detail, and in this video I'll tell you which of the 3 is best for whom. We'll start with the internal hardware and performance. The Fold 7 and S25 Ultra both have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy chip, while the Flip 7 has a Samsung Exynos 2500. All 3 offer 12GB of RAM, although you can only get the Fold 7 with 16GB. The internal storage can be 256 or 512GB each, and you can get the Fold and Ultra with 1TB too. Although the Fold and Ultra have the same chip, the Ultra is a little more powerful than Geekbench 6. It's also more powerful than the Flip 7, which depending on the test is on par or a little weaker than the Fold. The exact same thing in the 3D Mark test. The S25 Ultra is a little stronger, the other two are a bit weaker. In everyday use, I actually noticed no difference in performance. All apps, a lot of multitasking, Samsung DeX, and even editing videos are very fluid on all 3. I did notice a difference when playing games though. With the Flip 7, you can only select 60 FPS in Fortnite, and it runs at 50 to 60 in reality, and it does that quite nicely. With the Fold 7, you can select 120 FPS, and it initially runs at around 100, but then quickly drops to 60 to 70 and remains stable there. I was able to play with a constantly nice and stable 120 FPS on the S25 Ultra though, and on all 3 the graphic settings are the maximum. I suspect that Samsung can cool the chip better on the S25 Ultra, which isn't that easy with the folding phones. They are also very thin and have additional displays, so they have to accommodate more components. For gamers, the S25 Ultra is therefore clearly the better choice. There are also big differences in the cameras. The Fold 7 and S25 Ultra each have the same 200 megapixel main camera, and the Flip 7's resolves at 50 megapixels. You can actually take really nice and detailed shots with all 3, especially in RAW and especially if you select the maximum resolution. But sure, the Fold and Ultra offer a bit more detail. All 3 have ultra-wide cameras, although the Folds and Flips only have a resolution of 12 megapixel and the Ultra 50. The latter naturally has more details again, but in fact the ultra-wide cameras on all 3 are otherwise really good and have taken really good photos with all 3. But yes, the Ultra is a little bit better. With the Flip 7, Samsung omits the telephoto camera. The Fold 7 and Ultra have the same 3x zoom with 10 megapixels, which is only okay however. I got almost the same quality with the 200 megapixel main camera if you zoom in a little digitally. With that being said, the S25 Ultra additionally has a good 5x zoom with 50 megapixels, so a nice high resolution, and I think this telephoto camera is great. The S25 Ultra therefore has the best camera overall, and if photography is particularly important to you, it's again the best choice. But with one exception, that's selfies and videos for TikTok and Instagram. Thanks to the additional displays on the Fold and Flip, you can use the main camera for selfies. You use them as a front camera. And the pictures with it are really much better than the standard front cameras otherwise. The Fold and Flip also have 10 megapixel front cameras, which are solid, but which I've almost never used because there's another way. The S25 Ultra has a 12 megapixel front camera, which is good again, but not as good as the main camera. Let's move on to the displays, where there are big differences. The Galaxy S25 Ultra is a traditional phone with one display. It's 6.9 inches large and has a resolution of 3120 by 1440 pixels. The main display of the Flip 7 is also 6.9 inches and has a resolution of 2520 by 1080 pixels, so it's not quite as sharp. But it can be unfolded, which makes it much more handy when it's closed. The Flip 7's second front display is 4.1 inches and has a resolution of 1048 by 948 pixels, and is great for notifications and widgets, but you can also watch YouTube and use other apps with it. The 8-inch main display of the Fold 7 is the largest. When unfolded, the phone converts itself into a tablet. and it's much more comfortable to work on the larger display. I especially had a lot of fun editing a video in LumaFusion. That's much more pleasant to do than on a standard phone. It has a resolution of 2184 by 1968 pixels, so it's also not quite as sharp as the Ultra. The Fold 7 also has a 6.5-inch front display, with which it looks like a completely normal phone. It has a resolution of 2520 by 1080 pixels and is very similar to the Flip 7. All are AMOLEDs, by the way, which get up to 2600 nits bright and support 120 Hz. Even if the pixel density is different, it's really difficult to see a difference in reality. In reality, all three look fantastic. I like the folding phones more, especially the 8-inch Fold 7. It's really cool and useful to have such a large display, and I think this display is the best because of that. It unfortunately doesn't have the best speakers, though. Here the Ultra leads, followed by the Fold, followed by the Flip. I think it's a great shame that only the S25 Ultra has the S Pen. I fear that Samsung will slowly get rid of it altogether, at least on their phones. The S Pen is great, very useful, and would be particularly useful on the large Fold. But well, if you want a pen, the Ultra is the only choice. Let's move on to the design. I find the folding phones much more exciting here again, because the foldable display is just really cool. And I like how small the Flip 7 can be. And with the Fold 7, it's very cool that it's as big as a normal phone, but then can be folded even larger. The question is how rugged the folding mechanism is in reality and in the long term. According to Samsung, it's quite rugged, but they themselves say that it suffers in really cold weather, and yeah, that's not great. And the two folding phones only have an IP48 rating, while the Ultra has IP68. So they are equally protected against water, but the Ultra also has good dust protection at the same time, which the others are lacking. At 188 grams, the Flip is the lightest, followed by the Fold with 215 grams and the Ultra with 218 grams. By the way, all three have a USB-C 3 port and can be connected to external monitors, and all have fingerprint scanners. Ultimately, I find the Fold's design the coolest, but the Ultra is built more ruggedly. There are only minor differences in the software. The folding phones run Android 16 out of the box, while the Ultra is delivered with Android 15. The latter should also receive an update soon, however, and in general, all Samsung flagships get 7 years of major version updates, so they are almost identical in this point. I find it quite interesting that there are almost no differences in battery life. All three got just over 26 hours in our standardized battery test. On the Fold 7 with its front display. With the larger 8-inch display, it got 21 hours. For this test, we always let an HD video run in a loop at max brightness. So, which of the three is the best phone? That depends on exactly what you want to have, of course, because all are good, but with different strengths and weaknesses. The Fold 7 is the best choice if you want to have an 8-inch tablet at the same time, so to speak, a premium Samsung phone and an iPad mini in one device. And as I said, the 8-inch display is really great. If you want to have a smartphone that's as handy as possible, the Flip 7 is the best choice. When unfolded, it's as big as an Ultra, and when folded, it's smaller than any other smartphone. I also find this perfect for selfies, Instagram and TikTok, simply because you can use the main camera as a front camera. For gamers, however, the S25 Ultra is clearly the best choice. Sure, an 8-inch display would also be nicer there, but games run much longer here with the highest graphic settings very smoothly. It's also the best choice if you want to have a phone that's as robust as possible, and if the cameras are particularly important, the cameras on the back, mind you. Next, I can recommend my review of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, in which I also show how it can not only be a phone and tablet, but also a desktop computer in just one device.